From the perspective as the president of the Bednor Finance University community, I'm happy when I see that over 150 plus members of this community have had their financial lives change. Every week, we have activities, we have webinars, and we are educating them on the various sections of their personal finance lives. And also from the perspective of being in the community myself, I've seen immense change in my financial life. I never considered retirement till I joined the Bednor Finance community, and I have a retirement plan. My investment portfolio, everything is looking good, and I didn't just do that on my own. It's because I stick with Bednor Finance. I've seen the change. I've had the opportunity to, connect with all the people who have interviewed on our webinars, and it's been exciting as an individual and as a student.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the third Bednor Finance University Communities webinar of the year. My name is Animwaa Amoo-Acheampong, the president of the University of Ghana community, and I'm honored to be your host for
From the perspective as the president of the Bednor Finance University community, I'm happy when I see that over 150 plus members of this community have had their financial lives change. Every week, we have activities, we have webinars, and we are educating them on the various sections of their personal finance lives. And also from the perspective of being in the community myself, I've seen immense change in my financial life. I never considered retirement till I joined the Bednor Finance community, and I have a retirement plan. My investment portfolio, everything is looking good, and I didn't just do that on my own. It's because I stick with Bednor Finance. I've seen the change. I've had the opportunity to, connect with all the people who have interviewed on our webinars, and it's been exciting as an individual and as a student.
Okay, we are back. Sorry for the inconvenience. So, again, my name is Animwaa Amoo-Acheampong. I'm the president for the University of Ghana community, and I'm honored to be your host for today. Tonight's webinar promises to be very educative and exciting, and we are grateful for you taking time off your busy schedules to join us. Bednor Finance has remained committed to providing seamless ways for Africans, especially young professionals like you, to learn, transact, invest, and grow financially. And one of the ways of doing that is through our university communities at the University of Ghana campus and at KNUST. And for more details to join any of our communities and start your investment journey, please check the chat box for the message titled Call to Actions. For tonight, we have a very experienced speaker who will take us through smart spending and growing your savings. She is an associate member of ICAG and a financial literacy advocate with in-depth knowledge in personal finance. She loves to share her knowledge with young people and help them grow financially. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us here tonight Miss Animwaa Amoo-Acheampong. Hello, Animwaa. Hello, Animwaa. Can you hear me? Hello, Animwaa. Am I audible?
Yes, please, you are.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to the webinar.
Good evening. Thank you.
Nice to have you here. How's work? How's your week been?
Okay, work has been fine. It's been good. I was on leave, so I just resumed on Wednesday. So it's been good so far.
That's very nice to hear. So we are really
Yeah.
looking forward to what you have for us tonight.
Sure. Same
So
here.
I'll leave the stage for you, and then we are all yours.
Okay. So are you going to let me know when to come in? I think you're going to do so, right?
Yes. So since it's a
Okay.
presentation, we would allow you to start and complete your presentation before we
Okay.
take any questions from our listeners. And then a quick
Okay.
reminder to our listeners to post any questions they have in the chat box.
Okay.
And then after the
Okay.
presentation, we can answer them for you. So anymore,
Oh,
the stage is all yours.
all right. Thank you. So I can proceed with the presentation.
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I'll do that. Hi everyone, good evening. I believe I'm audible enough and welcome to this webinar where we are going to discuss or learn more about smart spending and then how we can grow our savings. I'm personally excited that I've been called upon to, lead the discussion. I'm hoping that we are going to have a fruitful discussion and then by the end of the session, we are going to receive insights on how to spend smartly and also how to grow our savings as individuals, as young people. It's very essential that we learn all these things as these are parts of ways of improving our personal finance. So kindly give me some few minutes to present or share my screen with you so that I can start the presentation. So please give me some few minutes. All right, so can you please all see my screen? Someone can just let me know by responding so that I can know that my screen is visible enough.
Yes, please.
Okay, okay. All right. So, as I said, today we are going to have a very quick and interesting discussion on smart spending and then growing our savings as individuals. I believe we are all young people, and then it's important that we learn how to spend smartly or wisely and also know the avenues by which we can grow our savings. You saving is just not enough. It's important that you grow your savings as well because we all believe that there's a time value for money. Your one city today may not be the same value as your one city in the next 2 or 3 years. So it's important that as we practice the habits of savings, we also learn how to grow them so that we can at least earn some kind of interest on our savings. However, there are a few things that we need to understand. So I believe that as we delve deeper in today's discussion, we're going to understand a few things and then we will know how to grow our savings. All right, so for today's discussion, we are going to look at these areas. We are going to look at what spending is and then what smart spending is because we can tell that there's a difference. And then the difference has to do with the smartness level of your spending. So the keyword over here or the difference is the smart because we have spending and we have smart spending. So the difference here is based on the smart. The second thing I'm going to look at is the ways of smart spending. Because for spending, we all know how to spend. However, how do we spend smartly? Then we move on to look at the importance of smart spending. Why do I need to spend smartly? It's my own money. I can spend it how I want it. But remember that there are importance of smart spending. So we need to understand that so that you don't feel that it's your money, but you need to understand why it's important that you spend smartly. Then we move on to also um, learn about savings. This is because we are going to learn about how we can grow our savings. That's why we are going to bring in savings as though we don't understand or know anything about savings. Then after we've learned about what savings is, we can now understand the ways by which we can grow our savings. Then lastly, we look at the importance of savings. After the presentation, if you have any questions, you can just write them down, and then after the presentation, you can bring them on board, and then I will see how best I can explain them or answer them to you. Okay, so let's quickly zoom to our discussion for today. So, spending and smart spending. For spending, we all understand what spending is because basically it's an English word, so at least we all understand. But we need to pick a few clues from here. So when we say spending, it's the act of paying for goods or services in order to benefit from someone or something. So that means that the moment you pay for any goods you purchase or any service that's rendered to you, it means that you have practiced the act of what spending. You've actually spent on that particular item or service. So anytime you spend an amount of money on a particular activity, it means that you have spent. Now, when it comes to smart spending, the difference lies with how you spend or how you use your money. Because for spending, everyone can spend. But then when it comes to smart spending, it means that you are spending or using your money wisely. That means that you are taking into consideration the kind of expenses you incur, probably on a monthly basis, let's say on a daily basis, weekly basis, or monthly basis. So you understand your expenses very well. That said, when you are making your expenses, you know what to buy and what not to buy. Another important thing we can pick from smart spending is that it also means that making good buying decisions, which is very, very important. Most of us are quite indecisive when it comes to spending. We sometimes buy on impulse, or when we see anything nice or beautiful or catchy, we just want to buy them. Sometimes we always want to possess an item or possess something. So anytime we see something on display being sold, we just want to buy them. That means that we are not spending wisely because we are not making very good buying decisions. Anytime you are going to buy something, ask yourself, do you really need what you are going to buy? How important is what you're going to buy to you? And if you do not buy it, what is going to happen? What's the effect of not buying it? And is there any alternative of, buying that particular item? Because probably you can decide to buy an item A, and which is quite expensive, but there could be an alternative for item B, and then which could be used for the same purpose. So you have to look at that as well. So the bottom line about smart spending is that in spending or using your money, you must do it wisely so that you do not overspend. You must also ensure that anytime you are spending, you are making good buying decisions. Ask yourself, whatever you are spending on, is it a good buying decision? Am I just throwing money away, or I'm actually buying what I need? So that's the difference between spending and smart spending. Let's delve deeper into what smart spending is. Now, smart spending can simply be seen as living within your means. That's another means as well. Aside you spending wisely or trying to reduce your expenses so that you can make good buying decisions, another way of smart spending is that you live within your means. And as students, it's very important that we spend within our means. It's very common for students not to spend within their means. You know that you cannot afford a one in a room apartment, but because you want to impress friends or people, after your parents have probably given you funds to, pay for, let's say, two in a room or three in a room or four in a room, you'd go the extra mile to probably use your pocket money and all that, any other money that you may come across, just to go and then have a one in the room apartment. And then it's not healthy because you're not spending within your means. If you could actually live in one room, probably your parents would have actually given that money to you. But because they may not really have that means, they've given you an alternative that is four in a room. And because you want to also impress people, you are spending, above, or yes, above your means. And That's very important that you look at because it could affect your finances terribly. Just imagine that at the beginning of the semester, all your money has been used in paying for rent. What are you going to spend on your books and all that? You will always be in debt. So that means that you have not spent smartly. So it's important that we spend within our means. Another thing is that we can include a plan on how we use our money. We all have uses for our money. We all have a purpose for our money. So it's important that there's a plan for your money. If there's a plan for your money, you will use your money wisely, such that if you're going to buy an item which is really not needed or necessary, you think twice about purchasing that particular item because you have a plan for your money. If you use it to buy that thing, you may be in trouble. So the plan guides you on how to spend your money. Now, when you spend smartly too, it helps you to manage your money and also pay off your debt responsibly. Yes, you can owe. Sometimes situations beyond us may cause us to owe, but if you are a smart spender, you can easily pay off your debt and still be okay because you have been able to manage your money very, very well. So it's important that as we spend smartly so that we do not incur unnecessary debt and then also run into yes, a lot of expenses because for expenses they're always there, but it depends on how you actually spend your money or how you incur them. So it's important that we spend smartly. Okay. So there are so many things that we would have to check as individuals because very little things can cause us to develop the habit of overspending and we may not actually realize it. So there are certain habits that we would have to check. If you want to spend smartly, there are so many things that have to go on in your life. You have to assess yourself very well. You need to check your spending habits because if you're someone who likes to buy every time you go out, then it means that it's a problem and you may not end up spending smartly. So it's important that you assess certain habits of yours so that anytime you go out, you spend smartly. For instance, you probably want to get groceries or items from a shop or anywhere and you have the list. So as you're going to buy the items, you've written about 10 items you want to buy. So these are the things on your list. Ensure that you buy whatever is on your list and then you do not go beyond what's on your list. Because the moment you go beyond, that means that you have not spent smartly. You are going to incur more costs, which you actually did not plan for it. So that would cause you to, go into debt or that will cause you to be financially unstable. So it's important that as we go out to shop or buy groceries or buy items, we buy whatever is on our list. And whatever is on your list has been planned for. That's how come they are on your list. So if not planned for an item, it means that it should be on your list. So when you go out and you buy items which are not on your list, that means that you are not spending them smartly. And sometimes too, yes, we have the urge or the desire to eat outside, but ask yourself, do you have enough food in your fridge? Do you have enough food in store? If you have that, try as much as possible to reduce the number of takeouts so that you can also save money. Because if at every point in time, yes, you're on campus, but you should try to balance the number of times you eat out and the number of times you prepare meals yourself. And it depends on the kind of room you are in. Sometimes you may be very close with your roommates such that you can actually come together, put money together, and buy groceries together. But sometimes it brings problems. So let's assume that you are a one-man and person, you're on your own, an individual. What you can do is that try as much as possible to prepare food, every time, so that once in a while, yes, when the desire comes and you're buying food outside, it wouldn't really hit because you've made plans for them. But if you're someone who's always spending or eating outside, you're going to spend a lot of money on food. And then comparing that to preparing food on your own, it's actually safer and wiser to do the later. That's preparing food on your own. So it's important that we check out some spending habits of ours if we really want to spend smartly. Other than that, if we do not check those habits and then we start the journey of spending smartly, it may go a long way to worry us because we may not be able to adhere to the principles of spending smartly. Okay. So we now understand what spending is and then what smart spending is. So the next question is, how do I spend smartly? Yes, because at the end of the day, you are saying we should spend smartly, blah, blah, blah. It makes sense. But the question is, how do you spend smartly? You may want to know or understand how to spend smartly. So I put up about 5 ways by which we can spend smartly. There are more, but I mean, these are the few I could get that I believe that could go a long way to help us. First and foremost, understand that it is very, very, very possible to track and control your spending. No one should say that it's difficult to control and then track your spending. No, it's very, very possible. It should be possible for you. It should be very, very possible for you. Whatever you spend your money on, you should be able to know and then have an understanding of what you're going to buy. So you can't say that you spend, most people will come and say, okay, I bought something in a month and I can't remember what I spent the money on, but my money is finished. No, you should be able to track and control your spending. If you come up with such stories, as in, I can't remember what I used my money for, that means that you have a very bad habit of, overspending, or you do not have a checked habit when it comes to your spending. So that has to be looked or corrected before you can now start your ways of spending. So now let's move on to how we can spend smartly. First and foremost, know where your money goes. You are the owner of your money. Your money belongs to you. So whatever you spend on, you must know, you must understand. You shouldn't say, I don't remember where my money went to. Unless, of course, you are in a room with probably people who steal. And that is, 1 out of 10 cases. And even if that's the issue and you know that, you should know where to keep your money. So you can't say that you do not know where your money has gone to, who made the spending. It was actually you. So you should be able to know and then track where your money goes to. Now, look back over your spending and categorize where your money has gone. So you can start that on a weekly basis or even on a daily basis. Let's say I started someone who doesn't even know how to start spending smartly and then wants to learn. So right now the first point is that we need to know where our money goes to. So one, on a daily basis, what do you spend your money on? Okay, so let's say you spend your money on food, you spend your money on books or handouts, you spend money on transportation based on where your hostel or house is located at. So all these are means by which you spend your money. You should be able to categorize where your monies go to. So the expenses or the transactions that actually can be seen on your mobile money statement or bank statement should be able to tell you where your money has been going to. If you are someone who uses Momo a lot, it's very easy because you can actually go into your statements and then you can know where your money went to. If you're someone also who uses the bank, the probably let's say online banking, or you use a card a lot, a POS, you can be able to track where your money goes because your bank statement will give you the transactions. So you should be able to look back and then categorize where your money has gone to so that you can know that, okay, so these are what I spend my money on. Which of them is important? Which of them is not important? Which of them can I reduce? Which of them can I not reduce? Which of them can I overlook? Which of them can I not overlook? And then when you do that, you will be able to, reduce the expenses. So the next point is that another way of spending smartly is to create a budget. Now we know what we spend our money on. We spend our money on handouts, food, clothes, transportation, other things. So once you know that, you need to create a budget. Now, in creating a budget, it's quite simple. You're just going to apportion amounts of money to the things you spend your money on. Because you already know what you spend your money on, probably on a weekly basis or even on a monthly basis, all you need to do is to create a budget. Okay, so on a monthly basis, this is how much I receive from my parents or my guardians or probably your side business. This is how much you receive. This is how much you want to spend. So let's say you want to spend, let's say 80% of how much you receive and then probably save at 20%. Now, with the 80%, you now go back to where your money goes to. The categorization that you made initially on the food, on the clothes, on your hostel fees, on the handouts, transportation, and then you apportion amounts then based on how much you spend on a monthly basis. Certainly, not all the items are going to have the same amount of money. How much you spend on handouts will not be the same as how much probably you spend on transportation. So you know how you spend. So based on how you spend, you apportion the amounts so that you can have a budget. The third one is reduce your spending. We want to spend smartly. That means that we want to spend wisely. We want to spend within our means. That means that we need to cut a lot of things. There are so many, there could be subscriptions that you've actually things that you subscribe to. Some of them you may not even be using them anymore. Assess yourself. Probably you signed up to a gym, and then maybe for months I'm not being able to go to the gym, but probably every month you are being deducted. There's many things you can check. So if you can cancel subscriptions that you're actually not using, it's very important. So assess yourself again, assess your spending, and then try to see areas by which you can cut down your spending on. If you realize that food is taking majority of your money, then find ways and means of ensuring that you can spend within a speculated amount of money. Let's assume that with the 8% that I mentioned, maybe food is, let's say, 40% because you're always eating out. Find ways and means of reducing that I mean means of eating out so that you can reduce the amount allocated to it in order to spend wisely. So these are all ways of spending wisely. Ensure that you reduce your spending. Because certainly there could be areas where you are really spending on which may not be necessary. There are some people that every time there's every time a phone is released, they would want to buy a phone. So you would have to check all that. Anytime they see new sneakers, they want to buy. Anytime they see new shoes posted on Instagram, they want to buy. Anytime they see new clothes, they want to buy. So please, it's important that you check and then you reduce them because you will buy them and you may not even need them. So reduce your spending so that you can be financially stable. Okay. And then another way of spending smartly is to create an emergency fund. Now, this is your parachute in case a huge expense pops up. Let's assume that anytime you receive money, you spend them previously on anything you want to buy. Now, in case of emergencies, how are you going to survive? So, in order to spend smartly, you will have to create an emergency fund so that when the unexpected arises, you have enough money over there to support you. So, as let's say with the breakdown I was given, let's assume you receive an amount of money, 100%. You have used, let's say, 80%, or let's assume if you use 70% on your spending and you have 30%, you can decide to save the 20% and then keep the 10% in an emergency fund so that when the unexpected arises, you do not touch on your savings, but rather you touch on the emergency fund because that's the purpose of the emergency when the unexpected arises. So if you are someone who spends smartly, you should have an emergency fund. So one way by which we can say, or we can see that okay, you are a smart spender or you are spending wisely is that you have an emergency fund, such that anytime you receive money, there's an amount of money that you put in your emergency fund. So when the unexpected arises, probably let's assume you're using a laptop and then all of a sudden it goes faulty. You have slides to read, you have exam coming in a couple of weeks. You need to repair the laptop. What are you going to do? Are you going to go into your savings and then use all the money? Are going to go hungry for days in order to repair your laptop? So it's important that you create emergency funds. And one last way by which the last but one, but if you can spend smartly is that it's under the budgeting. We call it the envelope method. Now, I actually use this kind of method though. If you want to spend smartly and if you want to ensure that you are spending the right amount of money, you can adopt this envelope method. But then it falls under the budget. You need a budget before you can adopt this method of spending. What it is like, let me explain how it moves or it flows. So with the envelope method, you have your budget. So you have listed all your expenses and then you've apportioned amounts to them. Now, after you've done that, you get envelopes and then for every expenditure, you put the right amount of money in the envelope. So let's say for food, you know that probably eating out, you want to spend, let's say, 200 cedis on eating out in a month. We are just assuming over here. Let's assume because I mean our revenues or our streams of income differ from each other. So let's assume that in a month, in your budget, you're saying that in a month you want to eat out. The amount of money you want to spend on eating out is 200 cedis. So you put that 200 cedis in an envelope and write boldly on it what the expenditure is like. So let's say transportation, you put the amount there. Let's say monies for handouts or books, you put it there. Monies for clothes, everything based on your budget. You have actually listed the items and then apportioned amounts to them. Now you put these amounts in envelopes, and anytime the envelope is empty, it means that you are not going to have money for that particular expense until the following month. So with the eating out, let's assume you put 200 cedis in an envelope for eating out, and then by the second week of a month, you are done spending that money. It means that you cannot touch any other amount in the envelope because it belongs to something else. So it means that in the second week of the month, it ends the eating out. You cannot eat out in the third week, you cannot eat out in the fourth week because the amount allocated for eating out is empty. So you can't do that. So you can adopt this method. So smart spending. So you can just, based on how much you spend or what you spend your money on, you can just allocate it and then you are good to go. The last way we can think of spending smartly is by saving. But because it's also a major topic for today's discussion, I'll just leave it here and then when we get there, we can better understand it. Now, I think because of time, I'll go a little faster so that we can actually finish and then end on time. So the question is, we know what smart spending is. We know what the ways or the methods of smart spending is. Now, why is it important for me to spend smartly? As I said earlier, the money belongs to me, so I choose to spend it how I want it. But no, the money belongs to you, but then in case of, there are consequences when it comes to not spending wisely. So you may not want to encounter those consequences, and that's how come you want to spend smartly. First and foremost, when you spend smartly, you are able to save because you spent wisely. You've been able to identify what you spend on, and you've allocated amount of money for your savings, so you are able to save well. If you do not spend smartly, it means that when the money comes, you spend it on anything, and then if by the third week of the month the money is finished, it means it's finished. You have not even saved at all. And then it means that if there's any kind of emergency, you're going to be affected. So when you adopt the habit of smart spending, it helps you to save. Secondly, it helps you or keeps your spending habits in check. Yes, we all want to buy something every time, we all want to eat something, but it's important that we are disciplined. So when we want to adopt the habit of smart spending, we also need to check our spending habits so that we can be able to spend smartly. If we write 10 items to purchase in a grocery shop, let's adhere to those 10 items and not buy 15 items at the end of the day. Also, if you adopt the habit of smart spending, you are able to live within your means and then avoid unnecessary debts because there are people that would always want to borrow because they are not living within their means. So every time they do not have enough money to fund their lifestyles, so they end up borrowing money from friends and people. If you want to be someone who spends smartly, ensure to live within your means in order to avoid unnecessary debt. There are so many debts that you can avoid. So try to live within your means so that you can avoid unnecessary debts. And the last one is that it's important that as individuals we have financial goals. And when we say financial goals, these are what we aspire to achieve. I mean, financially. So in the next 1 year, what do you want to achieve financially? Probably you want to save money towards a vacation. You want to save money towards buying a new laptop. All these are financial goals, and it depends. We have the short-term financial goals, the medium-term, and then the long-term financial goals. Now, if you want to really stick to financial goals, in the next 3 years, you want to open up a business. In the next 5 or 10 years, you want to start your own business, and that's a financial goal for you. You have to spend smartly so that you can save enough money to raise enough capital. So if you spend smartly, it helps you to stick to your financial goals so you can actually achieve them because it's one thing writing the goals and another thing achieving the goals. Okay, so we are moving to the next major topic for today, which is savings, because we want to understand how we can grow our savings. And I believe that we all know what savings are. Savings is the amount of money left over after spending, and then other obligations are deducted from your earnings. Like I said, you receive an amount of money. Probably you may have different streams of income because one, you receive money from your parents, two, you have a side business, so you also receive revenue. At the end of the day, they are your earnings. So you put them together, then you deduct how much you've allocated for your spending. The amount left is the money for your savings. Now we need to decide where to save your money because, as I said earlier, money has a time value. Your one city today will not be the same value for your one city in the next 3 years. So if you are saving and you are keeping the money at home, know that there is no interest being earned on the money. The money is not growing. If you are keeping 100 cities today in your locker for a year, in the next 3 years, if you are still keeping the same 100 cities in your locker, you're still going to receive 100 cities. However, if you probably grow that 100 cities, probably in the next years, you're going to receive the 300 cities. So it's important that we understand how to grow our savings. But before we do that, you need to assess your risk level. Know that know your risk appetite. Are you someone who can actually withstand, um shocks? Because let's assume that you you are not a high risk person, but then you go and then grow your savings in a high risk and portfolio or investment, you're going to be affected. So before you decide to even grow your savings, please assess yourself, know your risk appetite so that you can be able to save using the right method or the right medium. Now, negative savings is an indication of household debt or negative net worth. So if you are someone who is not saving on a monthly basis, know that you are in great trouble because your net worth is negative because you do not have any money being saved. So you can't even form anything. You cannot even achieve any financial goal that you've set for yourself. The vacation you want to go for, probably after school, and you have 100, 200, and 400. After school, you want to go for a vacation, you want to do something. These are financial goals because they are backed with money or they have monetary backends. Before you can achieve these goals, you'd have to save enough in order to do that because you would not want to borrow money to have your dream wedding. So these are all things we need to understand. Okay. Now, money that is considered savings is often put into an interest in an account. Like I said, you cannot put your money in your locker and lock it and say that you are saving. Yes, you are saving, but then in the next 2 or 3 years, you're still going to receive that much money with no interest, with a zero interest. So it's important that we know the areas by which we can grow our savings so that we can grow our money and then earn interest on them. However, before you do that, please assess your risk appetite because I know someone who does not mind losing his 20K because probably he went into a bad venture or bad investment. But someone like me, I really mind. I can't lose that amount of money because I want to keep my money. I want to see my money. So if I go and then follow a friend just because that's the order of the day, I'm going to invest in a particular I want to invest somewhere in a particular medium or way, it may affect you. So please, this one is an individual assessment. Do you like risk or not? And based on that, you can decide on which of the ways you're going to talk about so that you can save your money wisely as well. Now, there are a number of ways that we can grow our savings. The first one is a savings account, which is very basic, and we all know what a savings account is. A savings account is an interest-bearing deposit account held at a bank or any financial institutions. Now, these savings accounts probably pays a modest interest rate, and we all know sometimes when you pick a statement and you check the amount of interest you earned, it's very funny because the amount is very, very, very low. Just that the advantage with the savings account is that it's very safe and reliable. Anytime you want to go in for your money, especially if you have an ATM card, you just go and then you take your money. You do not need to wait for a number of days or send emails or trick a bank or trick a financial institution like 100 times for you receive the money. No, it's very safe. However, the interest rate on it is very, very, very low. So before you even decide to grow your savings, you need to check the advantages, the limitations, and then check which one and your risk appetite as well. So all these things can, come into play to help you to decide on which area or way you want to grow your savings. But the most important thing is that you need to grow your savings. That's what you need to understand. It's important that you grow your savings. However, you need to think of the way that you can grow your savings by looking at a few things, your risk appetite, the advantages of that particular method you're going in for, the limitations, and then see if the advantages outweigh the limitations, and then you can go in for that as well. Now, the second way of growing your savings is a high yield savings account. This is slightly different from the savings account, even though you can still have them opened at a bank or any financial institution. This one, it's saying that it typically pays about 20-25 times the average standard savings. And know that anytime there's a high return on investment or savings, it comes with a high risk. So the higher the return, the higher the risk. So if you know that you're a risk averse person or your risk appetite is very low, that means that you are going for savings, mediums of savings, which has a very low rate of return, because I mean you do not want any kind of risk at all. But if you're someone who has a very high risk, it means that you're going in for a particular mode of savings or investment which is going to yield a high rate of returns, and it's 50-50. So I mean you need to understand that very well and then also know your risk appetite. So with this high yield savings account, it can actually be opened in a bank as well. But then the difference between this one and then the savings account is that there are a number of things or factors you need to consider. One, the initial deposit requirements. For the savings account, the bank can tell you, oh, 10 cedis is enough, 20 cedis, 50 cedis. But for the high yield savings, because it's high yield, the interest rate on it is higher than the savings account. They may require that you deposit a larger amount of money. So, I mean, there are a number of accounts. When you go to the bank, there are so many accounts they can actually describe to you. There are ones that can tell, okay, the minimum deposit is, let's say, 1,000 cedis, a 200 cedis, a 300 cedis. And you know that this one has a different rate of return compared to the normal savings account. Also, you need to consider the interest rate, the minimum balance requirements. Sometimes with this particular account, when your balance is, let's say, 200 cedis and below, you cannot withdraw. So there are so many factors. So that's why I'm saying that before you decide on where to grow your savings, after you've checked the risk appetite, you need to check the advantages and the limitations associated with the particular mode of growing your savings, so that you can be you can understand what you're going in for. Sometimes too, when you go to the bank or financial institution, please ask questions, because if you not ask questions, you may not know and you can't assume, because as you have signed a document, it is binding, and it could be a document that you cannot withdraw if your minimum balance is this, and you can only withdraw these number of times. So in these things, ask questions and be satisfied that you're going in for the right thing. The next way of growing your savings is a certificate of deposit. That's also another form of bank investment. So with this one, it's a savings product that earns interest on a lump sum for a fixed period of time. So let's say that the bank can say that, okay, so if you want to grow your savings through a CD, that's a certificate of deposit, you will need, let's say, 500 CDs for, let's say, 3 months, that's 90 days. And within that period, you cannot withdraw. So you're going to earn interest on the lump sum of money you have deposited at the bank. But then within this period, you cannot withdraw. You cannot do this. You cannot do this. Once you withdraw, you're going to face penalty, or you're going to lose an amount, a certain percentage of the interest. So you need, in this case as well, you need to also understand what you're going in for. In fact, for any kind of way of growing your savings, whether investments or whether through these forms of savings at the banks, it's important that you understand what you're going in for. You are satisfied with the conditions or the requirements, and then you are good to go. So that in case you need the money, for instance, you cannot say that you're going to create an emergency fund through a CD. What if the emergency arises? Do you understand? So probably the best way of keeping the emergency fund is through a savings account. That one you can spend yourself not to touch the money. Probably you can limit how many times you withdraw from that money. But for something like a CD, let's say you have agreed to um, invest or save the money for, let's say, 90 days. And within that 90 days, you cannot withdraw until the 90 days is over. Some banks may allow, it depends. For a fixed deposit like this, some banks may tell you that, oh, anytime you want the money, can just come, we will just give money to you. Another bank with the same product or same savings product can tell you, no, if it's not up to 90 days, you cannot come for your money. So we need to understand all this. Even though they're all good ways of savings, it all comes with its own requirements and then its own rates of interest. So it's important that we understand them very, very well. so that we can make the right choices for our savings. Like I said, it's important to grow your savings. However, the means or the ways of growing your savings lies with you. You need to understand what you're going in for. The next one is the money market fund. A money market fund is a type of mutual fund, and we know, I believe we all know what mutual funds are. It's a type of mutual fund that invests in only low risk securities. So at least understand that low risk. So if you're someone who doesn't like high risk kind of investment or savings, you're good to go with this kind of method of savings or growing your savings. As a result, money market funds are considered as one of the lowest types of funds. Now, it provides a return similar to those of short-term interest rates. So if you want to invest the money for a short term, I mean you are good to go. And then we have the banks, and then even come the brokerage firms or mutual funds offering these kinds of money market funds. So if you want to go in for something like this, you are good to go. And then usually they are not suitable for long term investment. So if you want to just keep your money temporarily, let's say for an emergency fund, you can also go in for something like, because the term is very short, and then you are definitely going to earn interest on them. But you need to understand that it's a very low risk form of savings or investment, and then which means that it comes with very low returns. So you need to understand that as well. The higher the risk, the higher the return. The lower the risk, the lower the return. You need to understand that as well. And then the last one we are going to look at, there are a number of them actually, a number of ways of savings that, because of who we are students, so we need to, I mean, start from somewhere. We can't just jump and say, okay, as a student, you're going to invest in stocks. I mean, it's very high risk. So unless you have that high appetite for risk, but as students, we have to go slowly, and then we can start from somewhere. If we cultivate these habits, we get to the point where we are working, we can now go in for, higher forms of savings or investments. Because that one, at that time we are working, and maybe our risk level may have gone high, but because we are students, we need to start from somewhere, just so that we can adopt this kind of attitude. Because you can't just start something and then you start at a very high level. At a point in time, you may even lose interest and may not be very consistent. So when you start slowly or gradually, it goes a long way to build you up and then help you a long way to go. So the last one is treasury bills, and I believe that we all know what the treasury bills are. These are short-term loans that the government takes to finance various operations. So if you want to save your savings through the T-bill, you go to any financial institution or your bank, and like I said, please, before you actually save your monies, read on the institution you're going to save monies with. Ensure that they're not going to collapse in the next 1 year, so that you lose your money. In as much as the money may be small, it's going to affect you because it's your savings. So before we invest, or before we invest in financial institutions, or we get products from these financial institutions, we need to look at them as well, read about them, understand them, who are their board members, get to know them, have enough information about the kind of institution you're going to save or grow your money with, so that you can be very satisfied that they're going to offer you the best results, or they can actually keep your money for you without any kind of trouble. Now, with the T bills, they offer between 91 days to 365 days. So you can go to the bank, and then if you have an amount of money in your savings account, you can start to buy T bills with that amount of money, and then you are good to go. Just that this one too, it's a very low risk kind of, in fact, risk free investment. It's risk free because it's from the government. So for this one, if you're someone who doesn't like risk at all, you can actually go in for this. However, it's a benchmark. So if you're someone who likes to actually invest in, high risk kind of investment, you can use the T bills as a benchmark. There's no way you can invest and then receive lesser than what the T bill is. So the T bill should always guide you, so that you know that, oh, at least if the T bill rate is this amount of money, this is how much at least I need to earn on my investment. Yeah, so all these are ways of growing our savings. Now we know the ways by which we can grow our savings. Now, what is the importance? Why should I even save? Like I said, let's have fun. You only live once. Let's enjoy life. But you may never know what will happen tomorrow. So it's important that we save. Now let's look at few ways, few importance of savings. One of the best ways to take charge of finances today is to accumulate a healthy savings account. Nobody wants to feel the stress of knowing that they are only a paycheck or two away from a financial disaster because they lack money to fall back on when stuff happens. So savings is very crucial for everyone, regardless of their earnings. That's why I said that anytime you receive your earning, just take how much you spend. If your spending is too much, try and then reduce your spending so that you can have enough money for your savings. Even if the money, let's assume your earnings is 100%, okay, at least if you are going to use 60% for your spending and you're going to keep 40%, it's fine. You can save 30 and keep your 30 an emergency fund and it will help you. But if you want to spend everything of the 100%, you're going to be affected because in the next few weeks, everything will be finished and then you will now have to depend on friends for loans. And that also doesn't come easily because you end up incurring a lot of debt. First of all, one of the importance of savings is that it gives us a peace of mind. Knowing that you knowing that you have a certain amount of money accumulated for times of need gives you a peace of mind. Just imagine you know how much you have saved. Let's say from the beginning of the year to December, you know that every month, let's assume you were saving 100 CDs depending on where you saved, even if you kept the money, 100 cities times 12, how much is it? 1,002. So let's assume we're saving 100 cities every month. By the end of the year, you have 1,002, knowing very well that as a student, you can fall back on your 1,002 or you can actually achieve a financial goal based on your 1,002. It doesn't mean that anytime you save, go into your savings. No, you should actually match your financial goals with your savings so that you don't always dip your hand into your savings. No, have a financial plan, have your goals, know what to achieve so that as you are saving towards your financial goals. So it's very important to have a financial plan. So I will guide your savings. Other than that, if there is no goal, anytime you feel that you have money, you want to spend your money and then have fun. So you feel, oh, I have money, so let's enjoy. So it's important that you have a financial goal to match up the savings you're actually having. So peace of mind is very, very important. When you know that you have money somewhere, sitting somewhere that you can actually fall on, you are very excited. You are free. You are okay because you know that at any given time you can fall on something, especially with an emergency fund. So it's important that we save. Two, it gives you a better future. That is very, very true. Like I said, it's important to have a number of goals. You are a student, but you will never be a student forever. You're going to complete school. You're a gentleman, you're a lady, you would marry. You will need money to do every single thing. You want to have a master's degree. It's important that you save. You want a better future. You may want to have a degree in a master's degree probably after a year after school. It may not come easily. That's if you probably do not have a sponsorship. So it's important that you save towards that. You may not have probably save enough, but so far as you have a goal that okay, in the next 2 or 3 or 4 years, I want to have a master's program. You can save towards it so that it can give you a better future. So it's important that we save based on the goals that we have set for ourselves. Probably after 3 years, you want to buy your own car, you want to go for a vacation, you need to save. When you see people having fun, sometimes someone may have saved for a year before going on that vacation. Don't just see pictures and feel that they just woke up one day and went for that vacation. They probably saved towards it. The third point is that savings provides you with a financial security, and that is very true. By saving in a disciplined manner, you can make sure that you are well provided for. In unfortunate times, your savings can act as a cushion. Let's assume that, in fact, your emergency fund, even if at that point your emergency fund is not enough, then you can fall onto your savings to support you or to cushion you. In that sense, you don't even use everything from your savings account. So it provides some kind of financial security for you. Let's assume you're in Accra or you don't even live in Accra, you are from any of the regions and you're having a national service in Accra. Before you start national service, no one is paid before they start work. You are paid after a month of your work. So if you are supposed to come to Accra, look for a house, rent and all that, and you have not saved, how are you going to go about it? Are you just going to put burdens on your parents or people around you? and then it's going to affect you because once people loan money to you, you need to pay back, and sometimes it comes with interest. So let's save towards that because you never know you're going to have your service. Maybe you're not in Accra, you don't even live in Accra, or you're Accra based, you may have your service somewhere outside Accra, and you may have to go. You need to rent and all that. You need to prepare ourselves so that when the time comes, you're financially secured or stable to face that hurdle. Another thing is that freedom to pursue your dream career. Yes, now we have professional qualifications, but they are not free. Someone wants to write ICA, someone wants to write ACCA, someone wants to write CIT, someone wants to write SEMA. All these things are very nice qualifications, but they come with, a fee. You maybe want to start your own business because you dream of being an entrepreneur. It doesn't come on a silver platter. It doesn't come easily. You need to save towards that. So if probably in the next 10 years you want to be a business mogul and you're not saving, how are you going to raise capital? At least you need to save to a point, and then once you're able to gain capital, it helps you. But if you do not save and then you want to start your own business, you're going to really struggle. And then let's assume you're even employed, you have a career 95 job, yes, and you want to add an additional side hustle or side business, you need capital. And then if you've not saved enough, you may not have the right amount of capital to venture into that side hustle. So savings is very, very, very important. And the last thing is that it helps you to make room for fun. We all think that having fun, hey, you are wasting money. No. But see, if you plan very well, you can have fun and then have fun very, very well. You know that, oh, in December, people have a lot of shows they attend. And remember that these tickets are very, very expensive. You find someone going for all the programs and you're wondering, where is this person getting money from? It could be that the person actually saved the whole year to enjoy themselves. So if you see someone going for vacations, having fun, it doesn't mean that someone is sponsoring them. Yes, there are instances like that. But in some instances, the people have actually saved for themselves and then they are enjoying. So please make room for fun. Life is too short. Okay, you only live once. So as you are saving, make sure that add it to your goals. Oh, a vacation. At least I don't even know how to explain. You even going to the botanical gardens is fun. You go there one holiday, buy food, buy drinks, sit down, relax, have fun, come back home. You plan all that. You need to have fun for yourself. You can't the whole year you haven't been to any place of entertainment. You're always home eating home cho. No, make room for entertainment. In as much as we are trying to reduce our eating out, are reducing that so that we can save and then have a better form of enjoyment. So let's not think that we're just saving money for very, very, very serious goals. No, this is also a goal to have a vacation, to have a fun time and all that. Someone can actually pick a 5 day leave and travel outside Accra just for relaxation because they have planned towards it. So it's important that we save not to make room for entertainment or fun. So this brings me to the end of my presentation. I believe that we've learned so much and then we um have actually had insights on how we can spend smartly and then also how we can grow our savings. At this point, if you have any questions, you can let me know and then I'll do justice to the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Animwaa, for that wonderful presentation. So, to grow wealth, you need to spend smartly. To grow wealth, you need to save well, and then it will help you achieve all your goals and also enjoy as much as you can. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box, and then we can ask any more for you. But then a quick one, um, any more? So you've talked a lot about savings and then um spending smartly, but I noticed that a lot of my colleagues even have this term they use, that's living hand to mouth. And looking at the current economic climate we find ourselves in, a lot of people classify themselves as that way, that they spend all their incomes on their needs. So for someone like that, what advice would you give to help them, put something aside?
Okay, so that's why I mentioned that you would have to actually know where your money goes to. That's the first point of call. Okay, yes, a lot of people live hand to mouth. That's the truth. But once you know where your money goes to, you have a definite understanding, and then from there you can now see where you can reduce cost. Please, am I making sense? Because let's assume that you know that okay, on a monthly basis, I spend my money on A, B, C, and D. Now, if I spend money on A, B, C, and D, how can I reduce the spending in order to increase my savings? Or what you can actually do is that when you receive your earnings, at least try as much as possible, even if it's 5%, you can just put it down for savings. Let us not spend everything on our expenses. So when we list our expenses, we have an idea on what we spend our monies on. Because if you don't have an idea on what you spend your money on, that's when you always spend and spend and spend. But if you have an idea on what you are spending your money on, it can now guide you to reduce some of them. Honestly, some of them can be reduced. Some you can, yes, you have to make a way. And by making a way, even if you have to save a 5% of how much you've earned, I think you should be able to do that so that you don't find yourself wanting. In as much as people do hand to mouth, I believe that when we try, it's gradual, step by step, to save at least 5% every month. It can go a long way to help us. But most importantly, know where your money goes to so that when you are cutting down on your expenses or reducing your expenses, you can know the areas to reduce. I believe this has answered your question.
Yes, please. It has basically answered my question. Thank you very much.
You
And
are
then I also
welcome.
wanted to get something from you, probably a personal experience on when you actually sat down to budget for something, but then at the end of the day, you overspent. How do you bounce back from something like that?
Okay, so I remember when I was going to marry, prior to that, I was having an amount of money I save every time. Okay, so that is me. So if I receive my salary, I know that okay, this is how much I want to save. But then I was going to get married, so we planned. Okay, so with my partner, okay, we will contribute some amount of money every time towards the ceremony. So that means that double work on me saving into my personal account, my personal savings, and then also saving towards the wedding. It wasn't easy. At a point, I realized that I was not actually saving properly towards my personal savings. So when the wedding was over, I now had to bounce back. So that's a personal experience because these are two different savings towards two different agendas. And at the end of the day, one was actually lagging behind. So after, because the other one was for a short period of time, when I was done, I had to now bounce back, and I was able to at least bounce back. It wasn't very easy, but I had to. So what I did was I had to just even reduce the amount of money I was putting into my savings so that I can actually still save and but then still bounce back. So that's a personal experience.
Hello, anymore? Please, you are
Hey, sorry,
muted.
I realized that I was muted. So I was
Don't
adding
worry.
that I also use the envelope method where I put monies in envelopes and all that. So once the envelope is empty, I know that I can't spend on that item until the following month, and that helps me to come back on track. So these are the few experiences I can talk about. I hope, I mean, you've learned something from them.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Thank you so much for the knowledge you've
You're
shared with
welcome.
us tonight. So anymore, before you leave us, do you have any final words to any of our colleagues who are listening to us?
Okay, so what I'll say is that, like I said, no amount is too small to start your savings with. I read some of the things I knew when I was in school, okay, before I completed, because I know that I completed university, I think about 8 years ago. Yes, so some of the things I didn't even know until I finished school and all that. And then you guys are privileged to have the Bethnal community, finance community to actually engage and then also learn more. So I just want to encourage you that try as much as possible to save in as much as your earnings could be probably small. Just try, even if it's just 5%, just try to save and just see how far you're going to go with your savings, even within a year. So let's try to cultivate the habit of savings, and it's going to help us. And also adopt the habit of spending smartly. I believe that when we do so, we'll go a long way to help us. Because as students, we have the tendency to spend frivolously on things that probably are not necessary. So we can, I mean, try and then cultivate the habit of spending smartly and also growing our savings. I believe that we can do that. I know they're saying there's a question, so I'm open to that question.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much,
You're
Animwa.
welcome.
So try as much as possible to save, cut on your expenses. Happen in the future. Those are a few wise
Absolutely.
words Animwa shared with us,
But
and
I
I
think
believe
Edward
from her
entered in the chat
experience,
box that
yeah.
there's a question. So if you could actually ask him what the question is.
Oh, sure, sure, sure. Uh,
Yeah.
there's a question. Okay, let me try and get the question. So a quick reminder: if you have a question, you would have to put it in a chat box, because when you hello anymore? Can you hear me? Okay, so we have a question. Why do people create separate accounts for savings?
Okay, so People create separate accounts because one, as the saying goes, you don't want to keep all your eggs in one basket. So you want to create different. Me, for instance, I like to do that. So I would not just have one account. Okay, so I like to open multiple accounts with different institutions, of course, credible ones, so that at every point in time, I know that once at least you lose something from one, you can get the other. Because if you put all your savings in just one savings account or you just use one mode of savings, it's going to affect you when there's an issue. So once you create separate savings accounts, I mean, you spread your risk across. So you are not going to be affected if there's an issue with one. When I say an issue, let's assume you lose your savings, at least you will not be affected greatly compared to someone who had all their savings in one account. So that's how some people create separate savings accounts. Sometimes too, someone can create different savings accounts so that one they use the account for just expenditures or just spendings, and then another account solely for savings or emergency funds. So I mean, these are the reasons why people create savings, separate savings accounts. So to go over again, people do not want to put all their eggs in one basket. They want to spread their risk. They want to diversify so that when there's any challenge or any issue with their savings, they're not greatly affected compared to someone who have all their savings in just one account. Secondly, to someone may want to create separate accounts so for different reasons. So because we know that we need to create emergency funds as well, and you don't want to add your emergency fund with your savings account. So when you create different savings accounts, you can keep one for emergencies and then one for your savings, so that I mean, as and when there's an emergency, you know which one to fall on. And like we saw, some of the savings, because probably they are for a period of time. Let's say you adopt a CD, it's for a period of time, and then if the time hasn't matured and you're waiting for your money, you may face a penalty or you may lose an interest. So if that's the case, once you have an account for CD, an account for, let's say, a normal savings, and there's an emergency, you can easily fall on the one with the savings, so that because it's safe and reliable, you can easily have your funds. So these are the reasons why people have separate accounts for savings. I believe that the question is answered. Mainly to diversify their risk. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Animwaa. So that
You're
question was from
welcome.
Sharif. And Sharif, I hope your question is answered.
I
So
hope so
please, if you have any
too.
other question, post them into the chat box and then we can ask Animwaa for you. But then you are also being reminded that this webinar was brought to you by Betnor Finance. And Betnor Finance has always remained committed to providing seamless ways for young people like you to learn, invest, and grow financially. And one of the ways of doing that is through our university communities. So if you are interested in joining any of our university communities or any of our communities at all, you can check the chat box um, for the message titled Call to Actions, and then do just that. When you join the communities, we also have a collective investment scheme where we get to invest. You can always start small. So that privilege only exists for community members. So if you're interested in investing, you can join any of our communities and then you'll be sorted out. More questions coming in. So we have a question from someone. Hello, Nimo, am I audible?
Yes, please. You are very audible.
Yes. So we have a question from someone.
Okay.
She says, as you were speaking, you were talking about investments, but you didn't mention anything about the risk involved. So if you could speak briefly on that.
Investment. Okay. Um. So with investment, okay, the risk between investment and savings, there's high risk for investment. So it depends on what you want to invest in, whether stocks or bonds. And I mean, you can even invest in mutual funds, and we all know what mutual funds are. A pool of monies that we take for investors, and then we actually invest somewhere. That's a mutual fund. So all these are ways of investing. Just that with investment, the risk level may be higher than a normal savings account. It's not even maybe, it's actually higher than a normal savings account. So, and like I said, there's a phrase, the higher the return, the higher the risk. So someone who is a risk averse person who probably is scared of high risk will go in for probably just savings, and someone who isn't afraid of um risk would go in to invest. You can invest in it even in a business, the shares for that's the stock, buy shares of a business, and then you can invest in that. You can also invest in mutual funds. You can invest in there are different ways of actually investing. So it depends on your risk appetite and where you want to invest. Yeah, but it's important that as you invest, you diversify your investment so that when there's any issue with your investment somewhere, at least you are secured somewhere as well. So that's a slight difference between the savings and the investment. Yeah, I think the question is answered, unless the person has any other follow-up question on that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Animwaa, for that insightful answer. So we would also allow a minute for anyone who has any other questions for Animwaa before she takes leave of us. If you have any question, you can type it in the chat box, and then Animwaa can answer for you within a minute. And please remember to also download the Betno Finance app. It's very important. If you are interested in staying ahead financially, you can't do that without the Betno Finance app. You can find it on App Store, Play Store, or you can even find a link to the app in the chat box. So please do that. So if there aren't any other questions, I think we've taken our final words from Animwaa. I don't know whether she has anything further to say.
No, I think that's all.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Animwaa, for making the time of your busy schedule to educate us on
Thank you
how to
too for the invitation.
spend smartly, and then grow our savings. So we are looking forward to the next webinar, which will be very soon. So please follow our social media handles to stay updated. Thank you so much to our audience, for making the time to join us this evening. And we look forward to seeing you soon. Have a wonderful night. Yeah.
From the perspective as the president of the Bedno Finance University community, I'm happy when I see that over 150 plus members of this community have had their financial lives change. Every week, we have activities, we have webinars, and we are educating them on the various sections of their personal finance lives. And also from the perspective of being in the community myself, I've seen immense change in my financial life. I never considered retirement till I joined the Bedno Finance community, and I have a retirement plan. My investment portfolio, everything is looking good, and I didn't just do that on my own. It's because I stick with Bedno Finance. I've seen the change. I've had the opportunity to, connect with all the people who have interviewed on our webinars, and it's been exciting as an individual and as a student. From the perspective as the president of the Bedno Finance University community, I'm happy when I see that over 150 plus members of this community have had their financial lives change. Every week, we have activities, we have webinars, and we are educating them on the various sections of their personal finance lives. And also from the perspective of being in the community myself, I've seen immense change in my financial life. I never considered retirement till I joined the Bedno Finance community, and I have a retirement plan. My investment portfolio, everything is looking good, and I didn't just do that on my own. It's because I stick with Bedno Finance. I've seen the change. I've had the opportunity to, connect with all the people who have interviewed on our webinars, and it's been exciting as an individual and as a student. From the perspective as the president of the Bednor Finance University community, I'm happy when I see that over 150 plus members of this community have had their financial lives change. Every week, we have activities, we have webinars, and we are educating them on the various sections of their personal finance lives. And also from the perspective of being in the community myself, I've seen immense change in my financial life. I never considered retirement till I joined the Bednor Finance community, and I have a retirement plan. My investment portfolio, everything is looking good, and I didn't just do that on my own. It's because I stick with Bednor Finance. I've seen the change. I've had the opportunity to, connect with all the people who have interviewed on our webinars, and it's been exciting as an individual and as a student.